So we're reading from the 17th chapter of the Jaiva Dharma. And this chapter is entitled, you probably don't remember the name of this chapter, do you? This chapter is entitled, time for my glasses here, The Jiva's Liberation from Maya, an important chapter. Brajanath is the disciple, and he's asking Babaji, Raghunath Das Babaji, and Raghunath Das Babaji is speaking. So now Brajanath asks the question, you have already said there are 5 types of jiva in Maya's stronghold. And you've also said that bhaktas performing sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti are under Maya's control. At what stage are bhaktas maya mukta, liberated from Maya? So, bhava bhakti, that's interesting, because he's saying that on the stage of bhava, they're still not completely pure. They're still, we learn that on the stage of bhava, it's still possible you can fall down. Some little trace of contamination, but even on the stage of bhava, there's ecstatic symptoms. So that, we're experiencing ecstatic symptoms, which are manifestations of preliminary stages of love of God. A very elevated stage, but it's not completely pure. So now he's asking, well, if that's true, when is he completely liberated? What is the stage of complete liberation? Because even on the stage of bhava, you will understand your relationship with Krishna. You're still within this body. So what's the answer? One is freed from the clutches of Maya from the very beginning of his devotional service. Wow. But Vastu Gata Mukti, or complete liberation from the 2 material bodies, gross and subtle, is only obtained when one reaches the stage of maturity in sadhana. Before this, a liberated person, to the extent that he is Sarupgata, aware of his constitutional, but before this, a person is liberated to the extent that he is Sarupgata, aware of his constitutional position. The jiva achieves Vastugata, complete freedom from Maya, only when he is completely disassociated from the gross and subtle bodies. The stage of bhava bhakti dawns in the jiva's heart as a result of practicing sadhana bhakti. When the jiva is firmly established in bhava bhakti, he gives up his gross and subtle bodies, becomes established in his pure spiritual body, chit sharira. Consequently, the jiva is not fully free from Maya's control, even up to the beginning stages of bhava bhakti, because a trace of the conditioning of Maya always remains as long as the jiva is performing sadhana bhakti. The authorities in our line have carefully considered sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti, and have concluded bhaktas practicing both these stages, amongst the 5 stages, have included bhaktas practicing both these stages amongst the 5 stages of conditioned souls. The materialist and the impersonalist are definitely included. In other words, what he's saying is that even on the stage of bhava, as I said, there's still some conditioning left. So bhava comes after rati, and rati comes after ruchi. So on that stage, there's strong attraction to Krishna, because there's practically no contamination, but it's not 100% pure. And then the pure stage is when you no longer have a material body, and you're completely established in what's called Vastu Siddhi, your eternal, perfect form. So, just like it's said, if you're Krishna conscious and you leave the material world, you take part in Krishna's Leela to become further elevated or finally qualified for Krishna's eternal pastimes. So some little more work is necessary. So it's a long process. becoming purified, so don't become impatient. It said even we achieve the stage of bhava, which is far beyond anartha nivritti. Still some impurity may be there, not complete realization yet of one's eternal form and relationship. And realization of one's relationship, we're talking about two levels. Now we realize we have a relationship with God. That's just called believing in God. And what is that relationship? We're servant, but we don't know any details. What kind of servant? In what relationship? Is it friend? Is it servitor friend? Is it elder friend? Is it conjugal? Is it gopi? Is it manjari? Is it parental? We don't know these things yet. So as you become Krishna conscious, then these things are revealed because they exist. The spiritual form exists. And that's called Vastu Siddhi. And in Swarup Siddhi is the stage just before that. And one is realizing one's relationship, but not in complete detail. Vastu Siddhi, at that stage, you no longer have a material body. You can't reach Vastu Siddhi in a material form. So in that stage, in Krishna's Leela, when we're purified, then we're ready to go back to Godhead. And so you see even some of the newly arrived gopis in Vrindavan, when Krishna played his flute to do the Rasa Leela, some of them couldn't yet go. They still had a little bit further to go. And so they were restrained from going by their husbands. But when they advanced further, then next time they were able to go. So, in other words, we're learning how to be perfect lovers of Krishna, and only the perfect lovers are allowed in Krishna's eternal pastimes. So you go to Vrindavan, you take your last birth in Vrindavan in Krishna Leela to become finally purified. And in some cases, you may finally become purified and to the degree that you can be engaged in Krishna's pastimes even in this world within your mind, and then you don't have to go because you will get that purification there. But generally, Prabhupada says, you will take birth in Krishna Leela if you're Krishna conscious, and then get final training, how to act. It's kind of like, let's say someone very important is coming, and they want to rehearse how to receive him and how to deal with him. So now you have to learn how to deal with Krishna, what he likes, what's proper. You don't want to, it's like they have schools of etiquette. You have to learn the etiquette to associate with a certain class of people, otherwise you don't fit in. So I don't know if that's a good example, but in learning how to serve Krishna, how to be in a group of Krishna's pure devotees and understand, it's not just understanding practically, but that's there also, but understanding everything about Krishna so one can perfectly associate and please him. So coming from the state we're in now, all the way through, at some point, this desire to want to be connected with Krishna gets very strong. And as that strengthens, all the other desires gradually diminish. And when they all diminish, then one is left, by Krishna's mercy, with realization. Well, first there's inclination, I want to serve Krishna in a particular relationship, and then eventually there's realization of what that relationship is. When one desires to serve Krishna in a particular way, and one's qualified to do that, and one begins to follow in the footsteps of those who are serving Krishna in that way, one begins to read about them and meditate about them. Let's say you feel strong inclination to serve Krishna as a mother, and then you become absorbed in Mother Yasoda. Now, you may be a mother, in the material world, you may have motherly inclinations, but that doesn't mean that material inclination has anything to do with your spiritual inclination. The spiritual inclination is there is revealed due to your spiritual advancement, not because materially, maybe you're a man who'd rather be a woman, so you think, well, actually it means I'm a gopi in Krishna's eternal pastimes. It doesn't mean you're a gopi. It just means that's a material inclination. But spiritual inclinations come out. That's called Raganuga Bhakti. And as they come out, you cultivate them at a certain stage, which would happen after Nishta. And it's something natural, it's not something forced. And you have a desire to serve Krishna in a particular way. Now, most of us are probably not on that platform, so we're not really worried about it. We're just worried about getting to the stage of Nishta. And Nishta is a stage after Anartha Nivritti, so we're just worried about getting there. Not so much worried about what is my rasa. And the problem, we should be concerned. At the same time, if we're not qualified, then the concern is problematic. It's detrimental. Because if one is still battling with on the Anartha Nivritti, to come to the Anartha Nivritti stage, then one's not really qualified to go to Raganuga Bhakti, to go beyond that stage and be thinking about these things. And so one basically has to be thinking about how to become a good devotee, how to follow principles. So otherwise it's immature, and then one is jumping too far ahead of oneself and trying to do something that's too difficult to do, or one is not qualified to do, which happens materially in the material world as well as here in the spiritual world, that one may try to do something one is not really able to do or qualified to do. Like, don't try to run a business, or don't try to take on a position which is greater than your ability. Not that you can't run a business. If you're not capable or qualified, you could lose money. So you want to be qualified, knowledgeable before you do anything, right? Otherwise you can make a mess of it. So, but anyway, the information is given in Shastra, so we know, we learn about, we know what the path is. And we learn about these stages. So, the stage of Raganuga Bhakti is just where the inkling of a desire is there for a particular relationship, but it's not clear what it is. It's just that one has a strong desire, so one begins to cultivate the mood of that relationship, particularly by following in the footsteps of someone in that relationship and hearing about them. Again, if that's done before one is ready, then it won't help one, it'll actually hurt one. And again, because that's the stage beyond Anartha Nivritti, and we have so many anarthas, so you can't jump to a higher stage while you're still full of anarthas. And, you know, a strong hankering for Krishna consciousness is one thing, but a hankering to understand or be engaged in a particular way in relationship to Krishna, in particular relationship, that hankering doesn't come until a higher stage. No, in the lower stage, we could hanker for service of our gurus, service of Prabhupada, service of the Vaishnavas, and all other kinds of service. So it's not that we can't hanker. That's different than hankering to understand or be engaged in a particular relationship in relation to Krishna. One of the five, well, we say 3 relationships, because it wouldn't be neutral. So that's the higher stage. And it's there, but Prabhupada, his encouragement, and mostly in terms of hankering, was we should hanker to spread Krishna consciousness, we should hanker to give it to others. And that way, by engaging in the service of the Sankirtan movement, that would be the most powerful way to become purified. And then at some stage in Krishna consciousness, these other desires will naturally awaken through that process of hankering to be engaged in the service of the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. So that was Prabhupada's stress, that the austerity and the greatest means of purification would be to give Krishna consciousness, to spread it, to help or help those who are spreading it. Make Krishna consciousness available to other people. And that's what Prabhupada stressed for us. Now in his books, these other things are discussed, but in his letters and his lectures, that was not stressed. What was stressed always was giving Krishna consciousness to others. And even Bhaktisiddhanta said that Raganuga Bhakti in a sense means, because Raganuga means spontaneous, or following in the path of spontaneous. We sometimes call it spontaneous. Actually means following the path of those who are spontaneous. But even when practicing Raganuga Bhakti, it means that the spontaneity is the ruchi, or the taste is the motive, which more than the rule and regulation. But the devotee still follows the rules and regulations. It's just, neophyte stage, lower stage, the motive, let's say the motive to get up early is because the rule is to get up early. In Raganuga Bhakti, the motive is not because of the rule, it's because you want to. But in any case, Prabhupada always encouraged us in spreading Krishna consciousness. That was where he really pushed us. The hankering, said always think about how you can give other people Krishna conscious, always distribute my books, expand the book distribution, open temples, and preach Bhagavad Gita, some way be engaged in service. Everything in ISKCON is preaching, because everything we do is helping, directly or indirectly, it's helping people come to Krishna consciousness. So even deity worship is part of preaching, of course, prasadam. So all prasadam distribution, so all these things, Prabhupada always encouraged us more and more and more and more and more to be using our energy, using our minds in this way, as the means of getting Krishna's mercy, the most mercy, and the mercy of his spiritual master, all the acharyas. So let me go back and see if you have any questions. When I try to think of a way to accumulate things for my son, like for his future security, that thought process takes me away from Krishna. Think materially how to balance that. Well, you have to connect everything to Krishna. So it's not like this is Krishna consciousness and this isn't Krishna consciousness. That's how do you connect everything to Krishna. So what's the most secure position for your son in the future? As a bona fide Indian, you will tend to focus on the material side a little bit too much. As a bona fide American, we may tend to focus on the Krishna conscious side, perhaps a little too much. So there's a balance, but the most important thing as a parent is, as Shastra says, you're the guru. So you're the guru of your son. So now you want to situate your son in an optimal position to be a good devotee. So that has to be, all the material has to be supportive of that. So don't try to create material security for him in a way that would, in any way, that would undermine his Krishna consciousness. That would be a huge mistake, which a lot of parents do. They think, well, we'll get the material side down, then we'll add the spiritual. But how do you, the material can affect the spiritual, so you want to get the material side down in a way that it doesn't detract him or undermine him from the spiritual side. So that way you're connecting the material and spiritual. Don't see something, this is Krishna consciousness and this isn't, just see it that, how do I make it Krishna conscious? How do I see everything, Krishna is everywhere, everything's in Krishna. For a devotee, everything should be, we have to learn how to connect everything to Krishna. So if you're feeling like this is not Krishna conscious, it's because you're not somehow seeing it in a Krishna conscious way. So you have duty to your son to help him materially. That's your prime duty, is to help him spiritually. Now, all you can do is do your best. There's no guarantee that he'll take it up. Even Srila Prabhupada, his children didn't take it up to the degree that he would have wanted them to. So all you can do is do your best, but see everything in relation to Krishna. Don't see it as, okay, this is not Krishna conscious, or what did you say? Takes me away from Krishna. This takes me away from Krishna. But why do you want to make his... But you just answered your question. So he can concentrate on Krishna. So then it's not material. If you're trying to help him, so he can be more Krishna conscious, then you're saying the thought takes you away from Krishna. But the point is that you're trying to do it to make him more Krishna conscious. So it's also bhakti, you just have to see it that way. Doesn't have to take you away from Krishna. I don't know. Maybe you're thinking it's separate from Krishna, but you're just doing your duty as a parent. So you have to see your duty as a parent as service to Krishna. Your duty as a parent is to serve your son in a way he could become Krishna conscious. It hurts your bhakti because of the way you're thinking, because you're not seeing it as connected to Krishna. Just like you do so many things to help me that are just as externally mundane as trying to set up some financial secure situation for your son. Right? So why doesn't that hurt your bhakti? It's just as, you go to the post office, you send this, you send out emails. You say, no, because everything that I'm doing for you is in connection with spreading Krishna consciousness. So you just have to see that what you're doing for your son is in connection with Krishna consciousness. And as far as hurting your bhakti, I would say that it's just you have the wrong conception. It's because you see it separately, then somehow or other you're thinking it's not Krishna conscious, and then you're allowing it to, upset you, discourage you. Say, oh, this is mundane. Okay, but it but if you're doing something to help your son be Krishna conscious, then just allow yourself to be reminded of Krishna. You have to do it for that reason. Maybe you were thinking it's not for that reason. It's just mundane. For us as devotees, there shouldn't be anything mundane. Everything should somehow be connected to Krishna. We should somehow see Krishna. Should I, is the audio okay now? You said it was breaking up. The internet's going to go fast and slow. It's just the nature of it. They say, if I engage in service of my spiritual master, it reminds me of Krishna. If I engage in service of my son, it doesn't. But that's your perspective. Because you're not seeing service to your son as devotional service. You're seeing it as just material. But the duty of the parent, as Prabhupada said, is to help your children become pure devotees. That's what Shastra says. Guru na sasyat, swajani na sasyat, pita na sasyat. Don't become a relative, don't become a father, don't become a mother, don't become a guru, unless you can deliver your children from the path of repeated birth and death. So that's your service to your real service to your son, is to help him become free from birth and death. So everything that you do for him to help him materially, you have that in mind, that ultimately I need to do this because it will help him in the future become Krishna conscious. Of course, maybe there's some things you're doing for him that won't help him become Krishna conscious. So that you have to consider. And naturally there's things we have to do that just for raising children. Say, well, how is playing with this train set going to help him become Krishna conscious? Because if he doesn't play with the train set, he's going to be sitting there watching television all day, polluting his mind with mundane sound vibration and mundane sights. So, or perhaps he's got some nature of an engineer, and so by playing with trains, he's getting his engineering Shakti out or something, whatever. You have to, I see he's got this nature, so I buy toys in relation to his nature, so he becomes interested, and we direct him in this way towards a profession, and then he's set up. He's set up in his profession, and so now he can live without anxiety for money, so he can pursue his career in Krishna consciousness. But another consideration that parents don't always make is, all the parents want their kids to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, and nowadays software programmers. But one of the things that's happening nowadays, if you're in the IT industry, your hours are quite long. I think, I don't know about other professions, but that can become detrimental to Krishna consciousness. So, if you are your son's guru, then you also want him to be in a profession where he won't be necessarily working, gone from home to such an extent that it compromises his spiritual life. So everything you think about helping your son, ultimately you have some consideration, how will this help his Krishna consciousness in the future? Then you've connected it to Krishna, and then you don't see it and you don't see, this is so you have to, you want to think of all things. I mean, adults make the same mistake. We just look at what can we do to make money, and then we accept any job, any position that we can get, ideally one where we can make the most money. But sometimes those jobs compromise our devotional service. So we have to be careful, we have to think in those terms. So for many devotees, or many people, they find it difficult to compromise their income, even if it increases their time for service or increases their sadhana. And that's a huge compromise. I mean, sometimes there's nothing you can do because it's the only job you can get, but you want to consider all these things. Is there another job? Is there another city I can live in? Is there another profession I can work in which I would have more time for sadhana, more time for service? Yeah. So, and like Paul was saying, because if our life is irregulated, we stay up late, get up late, whatever, then how would we even be in tune with the idea that somebody needs to rise early every morning and not have a schedule where they have to leave home at 6 in the morning or 6:30 and come back at 7 at night, where there's no time or very little time for Krishna consciousness. Now, the thing is, the difficult thing is that we read in Shastra that it's, you should take shelter of a spiritual master. At some point, if you're qualified, then taking shelter means also to take initiation. And now once you take initiation, you have to find the time to chant your rounds. And you have to find the time to chant good rounds, not just, hey, I'm initiated, I chanted 16 rounds. No, they have to be quality. And sometimes, if you're overworked, you've got so much on your plate and so much on your mind, you can't even focus on your japa. So, these are all considerations that often we don't make. Particularly, children when they're going to a profession. Well, let's look at the profession. What are the options? What are, like some people like to go into pharmacy because they get 3 days off. Although they have to often stay awake, stay up all night and do 12-hour shifts. But a lot of devotees are doing pharmacy. They like it because I think they work a couple 12-hour shifts in a row, and then they get off a few days. Although that staying up all night is not so great. But anyway, then someone's a nurse and they work like 15-hour shifts, like 2 nights in a row, and it throws them off. You just have to be aware what you're getting into. And you have to be aware when you're raising children, what what's their nature. Okay, so you understand their nature. A lot of parents don't even understand their nature. You just say you're becoming a doctor, and that's it. End of story. His nature, the child's nature may be different, but the parent doesn't care about that. They just want the child have a lot of money because that's what's important to them. So that's a typical material vision of a parent. Because we want to help our children spiritually, then we have to have the vision of, well, that's important, they're financially secure, but what about their spiritual life? Okay, they're a doctor, what does that mean? Can they work 9 to 5, 10 to 5? What does that mean? They're going to be on call all night? Does it mean they're going to be on call on their days off? Does it mean they're going to have to leave in the middle of a festival? Or are there other doctors that take care of things when they're not at work? Do they have to, if they become successful, does that mean they have to start work at 8 in the morning and work till 7 at night? Things like this. And do they like that? Is that okay with them? Maybe for some devotees it's all right. They can get up early, they can chant their rounds, they can be at work at 8 till 7. They can make a lot of money, they like that, they use the money well in Krishna service. So, now, getting back to the initial gist of your question is, have to learn to see everything in relation to Krishna. Or another way of saying that in some situations is we have to learn how to put everything in relation to Krishna, because although everything is Krishna, sometimes we don't put things in relation to Krishna, so then we don't see things in relation to Krishna. So how do I see this in relation to Krishna? I say, well, everything's Krishna's energy, everything's Brahman, everything's spiritual. And say, okay, that in a general sense. But specifically, practically, how can you put it in relation to Krishna? And if you put it in relation to Krishna, you'll see it in relation to Krishna. Now, sometimes it's already in relation to Krishna and you just don't see it. So you have two sides of it. You have to become a psychiatrist. Maybe, see, the problem with parents, especially those who come from India, the tendency is to pick the occupation of the child without understanding the nature. The occupation is picked when he's in the womb. Okay, this is what you're going to do. So it's not really in line with Bhagavad Gita. Krishna didn't arbitrarily pick an occupation for Arjuna, and Arjuna said, hey, you'd like to be a Brahmana. What did Krishna say? He said, no, you're a Kshatriya. Audio is gone, so I'm going to get rid of the video then. Hold on. Audio is gone. So we have to get rid of the video. Krishna, Krishna. Hold on, everyone. The Indian internet system is reliably up to par, which means it's not working. It just decides to slow down because a few more people get online and it can't handle it. We pay more for the internet here than we do in India, in America even. And it's, just see, the next world leader of technology, India. Anyway, we're in a village, so we'll forgive. We'll forgive. See if I can get back on. It's not even allowing me to get back on. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Should be able to hear me now. Testing. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. Krishna Krishna. Okay, so you can't see me. That's why I usually don't do the video here, because this happens. So what I was saying is that Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, Krishna tells Arjuna, or Arjuna already is a Kshatriya, but he wants to renounce, become a Brahmin, and Krishna says, no, your nature is to be a Kshatriya. So, mistake of parents is often deciding what their children will be when they're in the womb, without understanding their nature. So Krishna is saying, serve me according to your nature. So, but let's say your kid is very academic and his nature is just to study and do research. Then he doesn't want to be a doctor. Let's say, but he has a science inclination for science. He does well in science. So research would be better. He might research a cure for this and that disease. Of course, in his research, if he finds out that this plant is the cure, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking how to synthesize the ingredient in the plant. So that way, you could charge $1 for a little pill that would normally, if you use the plant, cost a penny. But that's another issue. So he would go into research, or like you say, psychiatry. If he's into understanding the workings of the mind, into helping people. But usually what is often going on is we're just looking at, well, what are, I'll give you 4 options. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer. And what else? Computer programmer, that's it. If you want to be anything else, I disown you. I don't want to see your face. That's not varnashram. Varnashram is according to one's nature, but we tend to think, well, let's look at the occupation where you make the most money. Okay, that's all right. But then why do you want to make the most money? Oh, I want to make the most money because I want to build temples for Krishna. No, that's not what you're thinking. You're thinking he'll have a nice house. He'll have a nice car. He won't have to live in an apartment like I'm living in now. He'll be able to have a beautiful home, 5,000 square feet. That's okay. That's the way parents think. But Krishna conscious parents don't think and should not entirely think that way. It's not just about money. Okay, so now your son has a 5,000 square foot house in some rich neighborhood in New Jersey. He's a famous doctor. He's on call 14 hours a day. He's like now the most famous surgeon. He's got no time to do anything. And he's got a lot of money and he can barely chant his rounds. Is that, what human life is meant for? Is that what we learn from Bhagavad Gita? It's what we learn from modern society. It's what we learn from our parents and what they learn from their parents. So, you have to be able to look at things in a broader way, And let's say he doesn't live in a 5,000 square foot mansion, but he's a high school teacher. Oh my God, he's a high school teacher. He's only going to make like $3,500, $4,000 a month. He's going to be driving an old car, living in an apartment. Maybe he's happy doing that. Maybe he has more time. Maybe he can make his high school students Krishna conscious. Is that so bad? So, we put so much importance on this life in this world. Krishna, we have this faith, we have our karma, Krishna will maintain us. Yeah. Your son's a Kshatriya. He should be out there taking Tai Chi classes and punching bags or wrestler, become a world-class wrestler or something. And the problem is, no, I was talking about Pallavi's son. I don't know your son, Sushma. Yeah, so is he doing something he likes? No, he's stressed out, so he'll stress his wife out, so she'll stress him out, yeah. So welcome to America. See, the thing is, I grew up in this environment. You Indians, you come, and you don't understand it. You just land it and think, hey, this is America, this is how you do it. We grew up, we watched this. We watched our parents live in big homes and have a lot of money and not be happy and not even think about what the goal of life is, and just have financial security and have sons and daughters that become hippies and, leave them and live halfway around the world. We saw all this stuff. So, we left that to become devotees. So, career is important, but it's not that important. Money's important, but it's not that important. And so your son's doing well materially. But if doing well materially ends up stressing him out, what's the point of doing well materially? Got nice cars, got a nice house. Great. That's not the goal. Yes, you're his guru, so you have to give him vision. The parent is the guru. That's the idea. Anyway, this is a whole issue. There's got to be a balance there. We need financial security, but financial security is only one aspect of life. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. There are 4 aspects. And half the people don't even know that the real way to get financial security is to be dharmic. And then why do you need financial security? To satisfy your senses. Well, why do you need to satisfy your senses? So you become a materialist? No. So you can go to the next stage, which is liberation. Because if you don't satisfy your senses, you won't be able to renounce. But it's not the way it works materially, because the more you satisfy your senses, the more you want. So the goal is just to have more. But the goal in Krishna consciousness, Dharma, Artha, Kama, you satisfy yourself, and then there's moksha. Then you can think about liberation. Okay, now I have everything. So now what? What's next? I've had it, I'm satisfied, I have a wife and children. Now what? Now you think about liberation. Now you think about Krishna consciousness. That's the way it's supposed to work. But if you don't do it right, it ends up, the person will just end up stressed out because they don't know why they're doing it. Why are you working so hard? Ultimately, it's so you can utilize your time for spiritual life, your extra time. And if we just have the material side and we don't utilize it, the extra time and money for spiritual life, then it doesn't help. It doesn't help you. It actually entangles you more. So then your work as a mother to help your children become materially successful will backfire, and they'll just entangle them more in the material world. They'll become more stressed out, and they'll become less Krishna conscious. You only see them at the temple on Janmashtami. How many Indians do you know? You only see them at the temple on Janmashtami. The rest of the time, they're just getting ahead materially. Very prominent in America, right? Maybe less in India. Still there in India. In India, people tend to go to the temple more. But in America, many Indians are just, they've become so Americanized. They're more American than the Americans. Half the Americans don't work as hard or are not as interested in material success and financial success as most of the Indians. So where are they headed? They're headed to the temple on Janmashtami. Other than that, I mean, at least the Americans, they go to church every Sunday. But these Indians don't even do that. They just go on Janmashtami or a couple times a year. Too young to be a devotee. Prahlad Maharaj recommends, and Prabhupada also recommends, that the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes. So it's just like, let's say, there's a saying, today is the first day of the rest of your life. So it's never too late to start. But the idea is this is another false conception. I'll take up spiritual life in my old age, when I'm renounced and blah, blah, blah. Another huge misconception that you get in India. No. Bhagavatam says you take it up when you're Gurukul, as a 5-year-old boy. That's when you take it up, because that's where you form all your impressions and consciousness. And to think that you can take it up when you're older is a mistake. You can do it when you're older if you did it when you're younger. That's the idea. But they just think, no, you do it when you're older, when you're burned out. And then Prabhupada would say, well, how do you know? You're going to even become older. You could die tomorrow. Materialists don't say, I'll do it when I'm older. They do it now. I want to get rich now. So, Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada told Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told Prabhupada, preach Krishna consciousness in English. And Srila Prabhupada said, we're fighting we have an independence movement in India. We're fighting for our independence. So after we get independence, then we should spread Krishna consciousness. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, this is too important. It doesn't depend on independence, and it's too important to wait. So spiritual life is too important to wait. Just what should he do? He should begin practicing a little bit of Krishna consciousness now, understanding the longer you wait, the harder it is. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. The longer you wait, the harder it is to change, right? So that's why Prahlad Maharaj said, Komara acharet pragyo dharman bhagavatam iha. Practice Krishna consciousness now when you're young, because it's easier. So the longer you wait, the harder it is, right? So, but the point is, whenever you get it started, don't put off something auspicious. And if something's inauspicious, put it off. So we generally do the opposite. If it's auspicious, we'll do it later. If it's inauspicious, we do it right away. So, yeah, so fan the spirit. Yeah, most Indians are spiritually inclined. So you just, as Prabhupada said, you fan the spark and you show the importance of sadhana. Because if you want to become Krishna conscious, you need sadhana. You need some regular practice you do every day. And that will change your consciousness. So if he does sadhana every day, chants 4 rounds, does puja, does something, then gradually his consciousness will change. And the things that are bothering him and the people around him that he may be bothering, that will all change. When am I going to meet him? He's in Houston. And I'm not going there because you're coming to India. Bring him to India. Too young to be a devotee in the true sense. No. You can't become a devotee in the true sense unless you become a devotee in the not true sense. Unless you begin practicing from the not true sense, then you can come to the true sense. It's not like you're just going to become a better devotee by not practicing, and then someday when you're older, you're going to say, okay, now I'm renounced and I've done everything in life. It doesn't work that way. And otherwise, all the elderly people would be pure devotees. But the way it works is you begin practicing. Just apply it materially. It's not like you're going to become a great musician when you're older if you wait to learn an instrument now. No, you just have to do it now. He's stressed out. Most people in America are stressed out. So America is a stressful place. America is not the way it used to be. I can tell you that, especially now. The economy in America is bad or worse than anywhere I've been in the world. I was just in South Africa. There's people in the malls during the week shopping. Go to a mall in America during the week. Nobody's there. If they're there, they're window shopping. They're not spending money. Economically, America's in the pits. And it's been that way since 2008. And they're starting to get out of it, and it's going to go back into it. So that stresses people out. People have homes they can't pay for. People have overheads they can't meet. Companies are downsizing. There's stress. How do you know your business is going to be successful? How do you know you're not going to get fired from your company? And now your companies work you harder and harder because there's lines, crores of people waiting to take your job. If you're not willing to do what they're doing, unless you're somebody really special who can't be replaced. If you're replaceable, yeah. So if you're replaceable, then it's very stressful. So he's stressed out, so Krishna consciousness is going to help him. That's the message. Give him Krishna. he'll be happy. Why is he stressed out? Because I don't know. We don't want to get into details. You know better than I. But if he has some sadhana, regular sadhana, yeah, that's important. Because you see, we have to be able to find some satisfaction in our own life that's independent of how people deal with us. So just, that's that Atmarama position, that you find some bliss in spiritual life. You find some peace in your own spiritual practice. Yeah, so we're all Krishna because Krishna consciousness means Krishna's in control. Once you know Krishna's in control, you're not in control, life is easier. Yeah. So he needs your association. So what's going to happen when you leave? That's another problem. You have to give him some spiritual practice and make sure he promises to do it every day. Reading is also important, not just chanting. Reading, understanding. Even our own devotees don't understand the philosophy that well. Even our own devotees get caught up in situations where they're working very, very hard and stressed out and trying to make more and more and more money, to have things that everyone else has that they want, and they stress themselves out. Yeah, and then you see the other stress is that you're raising a family in America. That means the American values, they infiltrate within your marriage, within your family. So there's going to be more divorce. You're going to have more trouble with your kids. Yeah, bring him to, maybe he can move to Vrindavan. Maybe he can move back to India. Because that you're dealing with this American cultural factor also, right? So if you're very Krishna conscious, you can insulate yourself, even within America. But if you're not, and you have to deal with this whole cultural thing, and then you raise your kids, and if you're not careful, your kids are just full-blown Americans who have Indian parents. And if the Indian parents are not very spiritual, then they have Indian parents who are trying to be American, so then they're that more American. And as I was saying, at least Americans go to church on Sunday, but then if you have Indian parents who aren't Krishna conscious or spiritual, they go to temple once a year, so then the Hindu children are worse off spiritually. What we call the American nightmare. Yes. Pallavi is living in a little one-bedroom apartment. And her living room is the size of a closet, basically, in a big house. Well, a little bigger than a closet, but not much. And her living room is now has become the playroom for her boy, who's got tons of energy, who could knock the walls down of that house. And she's paying more for that house, for her apartment, because it's in a city in New Jersey, than I'm paying for a house in the country in Florida. So just to make ends meet for a little place, they have to work. Requires 2 people to work, not just one. That's stressful. And then 2 people working, then what about the children? They don't have the parents around. And there's no servants that you can pay $1 a day or $2 a day and clean your house and cook. The American nightmare. Anyway, then maybe you'll make it financially, but then hopefully you can maintain it. Then you'll finally buy a house. Then what happens when you buy a house? It's going to cost $500,000 or more dollars, and now your mortgage will then be about $3,000 a month. Whoa! And then insurance will be about $5,000 a year. Who knows? $10,000. And you'll have all these bills. So your business will have to maintain it. And what happens if your business doesn't do well? How will you maintain it? A lot of stress. Oh, now you could move to Mayapur, live simply, move to Vrindavan and live simply. Yes. Become Krishna conscious. Yeah, when you buy a house, then, but then you have this, you're paying the apartment, but there's no return on your money because you don't own it. If you buy real estate, then you own it, the value will go up. Although in the last 5 years, the values went down all over America. Homes that people paid $500,000 for are now worth $300,000. So what a mess. Anyway, we need. Anyway, we take shelter in Krishna. That's the whole idea. And we have our karma. We'll be successful. We try our best. We leave the result to Krishna. Karma doesn't mean you don't do anything. You try your best. Use your intelligence. But also use your spiritual intelligence to understand, is this how I want to live? Yeah. So Shushma, she can live in Vrindavan because she's experienced the other side, the material side, and she had everything. And Krishna took it away from her, and she's happy. Yes. We have a nice house in America. We rent it out. We don't live in it. We don't have access to it now. We live here in an apartment in Mayapur. It's not that external things make you happy, it's your consciousness. Right? But the difference with Pallavi is she has to have family and a husband, and so they have to be happy, they have to be satisfied, and they may not be thinking like she thinks. So you have to just learn to be Krishna conscious in every situation and have a Krishna conscious vision about the future, and not only consider things materially, but consider how they affect your Krishna conscious future as well. Yeah. I hope, Pallavi, your business goes very well. And then you can don't get an apartment in Mayapur, build a house. 1 floor for you and 1 floor for me. That's my hope for you. So I'll pray to Radha Madhava, your business goes really well, so you can buy some land in Mayapur and build a 2-story home, and we'll take 1 story and you'll take 1 story, and we'll all be happy. Now I have vested interest I have vested interest in your success. Yeah, so you see, there's one very great person, very wealthy. He said, before you make the money, think about what you're going to use it for. Because that's how because if you don't have a noble cause for it, then you may not get it. So think, okay, we want to make this money. What are we going to use it for? Think about the noble cause. Yeah. Well, Sushma, if you get it together, you can also do the same thing in Vrindavan. Maybe your son will build you a house. And then you can live on 1 floor and we'll have a place for me on the other floor. My wife would be very happy. If you do that, she would bless both of you eternally. Because right now, all our money, it goes into preaching projects. So we would like to have a place here, but right now we don't. We're developing our preaching, so all the money is going to preaching. And the land values are going up here very quickly, so it's getting more expensive. So we'll be praying for all of you to become extremely wealthy. The Krishna showers his blessings on you, so you can use your wealth in spreading Krishna consciousness. You have so much money that you can buy oceans of books and distribute Prabhupada's books all over the world, and you get more mercy. So as you think of how to utilize the money in spreading Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will send you more. And then Pallavi can think, yes, when I'm rich, I can hire somebody to clean my house for me, so I can do more service. Well, okay, so we should go here. Now, I haven't chanted any rounds yet. I started at 5:30, which was my japa time. So, unless you have some pressing question, we can end class here. And then you can let everybody know that we're back on schedule, and Pallavi, and tell them I'm sorry for all these changes. But we advertise things. You could tell them sometimes the internet connection didn't work, and then things come up spontaneously when I'm traveling. And now we're back to a regular schedule, at least for another month. I may travel at the end of May. You're welcome. And you make a lot of money, but see it in relation to Krishna, and then know how you're going to use that money in Krishna's service. Help your husband be happy, help your son be happy. If they're happy, then you can do your bhakti and use it in Krishna's service. Then, I don't know, maybe you should sell your place in Jaipur and buy a place in Mayapur. Of course, if you can have a place in both, that's even better. Of course, if you hold on to your place in Jaipur, probably the land value will increase more and more and more in the future. I don't know if you want to live there. Mayapur is nicer, but we've got a great school for your son here in Mayapur. He would love it. They have punching bags in the school. He could go punch them all day. They do tremendous physical exercise. All the boys have huge muscles because they have so much energy. They need to get that out of them, and they work all day and very hard. So, and they're all very happy. He would really like it here. You won't even, if he went to school here, you won't even recognize him in a year. He'd be so Krishna conscious. Okay, well, so we'll see you all Tuesday. Same time, same station. Yeah, you don't want to do anything to cause your husband to faint, because then you have a fainted husband on the floor. But your son, he needs like something to punch, somebody to fight. Maybe he could be enlisted in West Point. They could make an exception for him. He could be trained to be a military officer at the age of 4. Yeah. Anyway. Hare Krishna to everyone, and we'll see you on Tuesday evening. Jai Gaur Premanandi.